Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Enlightened Investor here. I'm without my right-hand man who's on special assignment, Mr. Mike Mahoney. A little shout out to you there, buddy. But we're here in Peoria Heights, Illinois, on a beautiful rainy day, talking to you today about the power of saving and don't be average. And really, this is a quick take, so just a few minutes of your time to kind of go through like the increasing opportunity cost of not saving and also some of the risks that people are taking by not putting some dry powder away, because right now in this economy where we see some indications of recession, like manufacturing, housing, service sector, and the only thing that's kind of keeping us up, folks, is the job market. So the question is, how long will that job market be maintained? The National Association of Business Economists just came out with a report just a few days ago, and the corporate America is looking actually cutting workers this year rather than adding. So we'll see how long that labor market strength holds up. But come the second half of 2023, be prepared, all right? So here's a couple of quotes for the day, because we always like to start off with a quote, and we've got one from Warren Buffett and one from Thomas Jefferson. The first one from Warren Buffett says, "Do not save what is left after spending, but spend what is left after saving." Just a different kind of mentality, right? That put yourself together, a budget, a plan in place. Don't be average. The average American lives for the weekend. They spend everything they have. My good friend, he introduced me to his wife many years ago and said, "This is my wife, Julie, and her marginal propensity to consume is above 1." So that that means that they had zero negative savings. Thomas Jefferson, one of our great founders, said, "Never spend your money before you have it." And I think that that's a great. Don't add debt, especially now in this very difficult time where we have inflation being persistent and there's wars in Ukraine and places like that. So just be prudent, right? And so one of the interesting facts is that the United States savings rate has typically been around that 10% level. And this graph here, you can kind of see that we've fallen behind that in the 1980s, 90s. And part of the reason is why we save less today is we saw this great wealth effect where our housing values went up, the stock market went up. And then there's this huge spike, of course, when we had to stay home for the C-19 shutdowns, and people saved about 35% of their income. So today, unfortunately, America, like you jump ahead a few years, and the price of eggs is like a luxury good. We were luxury item. We were just talking about that before. The price of insurance has gone up. 3.3% is the national average U.S. savings rate, and that is appalling. How can we build a base of the future without savings? There is no future, right? Alan Greenspan once said. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to challenge you here in a second about taking this 3.3%. Try to bump that up to at least 10% as a light investor. Maybe even more. We'd like to see that even more. And as you know, we recommend emergency funds here. We recommend that you have 3 to 6 months of funds stashed away in dry powder for a rainy day. I know it doesn't feel great to be in a savings account, but not so fast. We'll talk about that in a second. Interest rates in savings accounts have really shot up. But 6 out of 10 Americans don't have $1,000 for something breaks, their heater breaks in the winter, air conditioner breaks in the summer. That's a tough place to be, right? And as a part of this process that we're going through post C-19, the United States consumer, the household, has really poured on the amount of debt they hold. And we're in a time right now where the federal government doesn't take student loans payments right now. They're kind of keeping interest there at zero. Credit cards have just about surpassed student loans. Credit cards are now about over $1 trillion of credit cards. So, and the problem is we see credit cards interest rates could be 30%. The average is 19.3. So this record high credit card debt, you got to just knock that out. I kind of feel like Dave Ramsey did. But just knock that out because, a 19.3% negative return on is essentially what a credit card rate is. So do your best to knock that out. And the amount of credit card borrowers that are past due, they're kind of in delinquency past 90 days, it's starting to creep up, folks. And it's kind of the stuff that we were talking about with Ryan here earlier, is that the prices of products, goods and services are just having this inflationary push, and consumers feel strapped. So do what you can to cut back. Just pay yourself first, because I can tell you right now, being in delinquency, that does not feel good. So let's talk about savings rates. So I'm going to try to motivate you to save a little bit more today. I guess I threw the scary part out first. Let's talk about the positive part, and that is that interest rates are moving up. In a 1-year Treasury note, if you want to park your money in a safe place, the 1-year Treasury bond is yielding 5% these days. It hasn't been that high since 2007. So the opportunity cost, the foregone interest rate of not saving has gone up. Does that make sense? Like, if you don't save, you're losing that 5%, right? But back in 2021, you didn't save, it didn't really matter, because you had negative real interest rates and nominal interest rates were zero for many years. Some of my students at Bradley, I asked them, how old are you in 2007? And they said, I was 6 or 7 years old. So they have never seen interest rates this high in their whole life. And so I guess with this 5% interest rates, you can double your money, folks, in 12 years. And there's a question here from Twitter from Charlie Belio. He asked his audience of 7,606 people, what will have a higher return over the next year? Will it a 1-year Treasury bill at 5% or the S&P 500 returns with dividends? And about 50-50, slightly more in the S&P 500, 53.9% said the stock market, but that's pretty close. So I guess in the end, in this quick take, is really the idea is, we talk about this a lot, control what you can control. You can't control inflation or the price to heat your home or the gas you put in your car, but you can control your attitude on how you spend and how you live your life, how much you do consume, right? Don't be an average American that's like a hyper consumer. Focus on your productivity at work, your relationships with your loved ones, and make a creative way to have fun. The external stuff, like the macro environment, we can't control that. But don't take heart, because the world is an uncertain place, and that's one of the truisms of life. So folks, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed this quick take today on the power of savings, and don't be an average American. We'll catch you next time on another episode of The Enlightened Investor.